What's up y'all, BK back here with another instructional video. In this video, we're gonna talk about something that's really important that's gonna help you take your game from 3-5 to 5-0. This is one of those things that I see a lot of amateur players do wrong, mostly because they're just not aware of how to make this decision. So in this video, we're gonna talk about when to drive versus when to drop your third shot. Let's do it. Now, one of the biggest things that you need to learn to go from 3-5 to that 5-0 level in pickleball is your decision making on the third shot. A lot of players simply have no idea when to drive versus when to drop on a third shot, depending on the type of return that they're getting. So the third shot in pickleball is basically the shot after the serve and the return, where you're trying to use this third shot to allow yourself time to get to the kitchen and neutralize the point. This is a shot where your opponent is at the kitchen, ready for the ball, waiting for you to hit it, while you're at the baseline trying to get that ball either into the kitchen or put pressure on your opponent so you can get into a neutral situation. This video is sponsored by Centerline Athletics. These are my new favorite pickleball clothes. Designed for and by pickleballers, this is the best pickleball apparel on the market today. Their t-shirts are ultra breathable with a mesh fabric that keeps you cool and dry. With UV protection, these are gonna keep you safe from all the harmful UV rays while you're on the courts. Their game-changing grip tech technology keeps your hands dry during extensive play when you're sweating a lot on the courts. Use code BK20 at centerlineathletics.com to get yours now. Now, to make this decision on when to drop versus when to drive, you're gonna look for a couple different things on the return that your opponent is hitting. One is the depth. You're gonna look for whether that return is deep, pushing you well behind the baseline while you're hitting this third shot, or if your opponent hits a short return where now you're able to step into the court to hit the third shot, bringing you a lot closer to the kitchen line. The next thing you're gonna look for is the spin. Does your opponent hit a flat neutral return, a heavy topspin return, or a return with a lot of slice and backspin? These are things that are going to affect your third shot, so it's important to know, based on the spin, whether to drive or drop that ball. Now, the last thing to look for is the height of the ball. Is the return from your opponent low, mid-height, or high? And based on these three heights, you're going to make the decision of whether to drop or drive the ball. So let's get right into it and talk about what to do in each different scenario. Now let's start with the depth of the return. Based on how deep the return is, you're either going to want to drive or drop the ball. So a general rule of thumb is if your opponent hits a deep return, you want to try to drop that ball. The reason for this is because you're so far behind the baseline that driving this ball with power is not going to threaten your opponent, because you're so far back here that by the time the ball gets to them, they have plenty of time to come in and hit a swing volley that's going to keep you trapped past this baseline. So the deeper the return, the more likely that you're going to try to drop this ball, because it's going to give you time to get that ball over the net and back down into the kitchen, and also give you time to move up during the flight of that ball. The goal for you while you're at the baseline is whatever you can do to get yourself to the kitchen the fastest is the decision that you're gonna make. So the deeper the return, the more likely that you're gonna try to drop this ball into the kitchen. Now, if your opponent hits a short return, this is a great time to drive the ball, because one, if they hit a short return, by the time you get here and hit this third shot, that returner might not have made it all the way to the kitchen. This is a great spot for you to catch your opponent off guard while they're making their way up to the kitchen line. So driving a short return is a fantastic option to put pressure on your opponent and use the momentum of the drive to get yourself all the way to the kitchen line. If you are enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel below. It does help us support the channel a lot. You can subscribe right down here to BK Pickleball so we can continue putting out more great content for you. Next, let's talk about the spin of the ball. If your opponent hits a return with heavy topspin, this is a great time for you to drop the ball, because driving the ball off a heavy topspin, it's extremely difficult to get the ball over the net and back down, because what topspin does is that spin is going to make that ball hit your paddle face and pop up. So anytime you're trying to drive a ball with pace, when you have some heavy topspin coming at you, it's more likely that the ball is going to pop up, giving your opponent an easy put away. Now, if they hit heavy topspin, it's much easier to come in and try to softly drop this ball, because that topspin is already going to give you the height on the shot. So all you have to do is simply work on the touch to get that ball into the kitchen. You don't have to add any extra height, because the topspin on the ball is going to give you all the height that you need. Now, on the contrary, if your opponent puts a lot of backspin on the return and they slice the return at you, this is a great time to drive the ball. So if there's a lot of backspin on the ball, if you simply try to touch drop this ball, it's going to hit your paddle face and go straight down, putting a lot of those balls into the net. What you want to do off of heavy backspin is try to get underneath the ball and put a lot of pace on this ball and lift it over the net. So make sure that when you're hitting a drive off of a backspin return, you want to try to get more height than you normally would on this drive. So you want to get underneath the ball and almost aim 4 to 6 feet over the net, because that backspin is going to bring that ball lower as it crosses the net. So to avoid putting that ball into the net, drive this ball with pace and try to lift it with that drive over the net. Now, with the height of the ball, we're going to talk about a couple different things that you need to do on that third shot. One, if the return is low, always try to drop that ball. A low return is going to make it really hard for you to drive the ball in such a way that you're going to get that ball over the net and back down into the court. Very hard to drive low balls consistently without giving your opponent a volley above net height. If your opponent is able to take your drive above net height, it's going to make it very easy for them to hit a swing volley right back at your feet, and you're not going to be able to move up to the kitchen line. So on low returns, always try to hit a drop that's going to allow you to lift the ball over the net and put that ball into the kitchen, so you can give yourself more time to work up to the kitchen line. Now, on high returns, this is a great opportunity for you to try to hit a drive, because if that ball is already sitting up high, it's much easier to drive the ball, get it over the net, and get it to go down as it passes the net, forcing your opponent to volley from down low. If you can force your opponent to volley from down low, that's going to force them to hit the ball up, which in turn, you can now come and try to put that ball away in a shake and bake situation. These are great balls to use that shake and bake play on, where you're going to drive the ball and your partner is going to crash the net and try to put away the second volley. Now, a couple things to note with these factors is some of these factors trump other factors. Now, let's say you have a ball with heavy backspin that also stays pretty low to the ground. These are balls that, because of the height of the ball, you normally wouldn't want to drive, but because there's backspin on the ball, that's going to allow you to get the ball over the net and down quicker. So these are balls that you're still going to be able to drive, because the backspin trumps the height of the ball. The problem with driving low balls is that you're hitting upward and it's hard to get the ball down, but balls with backspin on it take that problem away, so the backspin in this case trumps the height of the ball. Now, let's say you have a high return that's also deep. Now, high returns are usually ones that you want to try to hit a drive on, but the deeper return, the harder it is to generate enough power to threaten your opponent at the net. So in this case, the depth of the ball trumps the height of the ball, because if you're this far back hitting a drive, nothing that you do is going to threaten your opponent in a pace perspective. It's much more sensible to try to just drop this ball and use the time to try to get up to the kitchen line. Now, for your reference, here are a list of rules that I've put out that you can use to make that decision on the third shot, depending on a multitude of these factors. Now, again, there are going to be cases where you're still going to be able to do the opposite of what I just listed, but this is a good general rule of thumb for you to consistently make the right decision with the third shot, so you can take your game to the next level. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe below to BK Pickleball. Also follow me at BK_Pickleball on Instagram. I put out a lot of great content on there as well. Comment below what other videos you'd like to see. Like the video, share the video, do all the fun things, and until next time, I'll see you later.